Welcome in, Braves Today, bravestoday.com. It's all brought to you by plainscoffee.com. Use promo code BRAVES, get your 10% off. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. And Lindsay, a familiar face, is headed home, albeit for a couple of days before we probably see him ship somewhere else. But Jesse Chavez is a Brave again.
It was Jesse Chavez, man, like life, death, taxes, and Jesse Chavez. It was really funny when the news broke that the White Sox were releasing him. He was on a minor league deal in camp. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Atlanta's going to go pick him up," and of course, the reports coming out were that the Twins were going to sign him. And so the jokes were, start scouting Braves prospects now, Minnesota. And then that didn't go through and he just came straight back. And so I think it's his fifth stint with the team. And I don't hate it, right? I mean, we talked on this podcast about when you swapped all these relievers out after last season, you prioritized velocity for the most part. Aaron Bummer's kind of an exception there. But for the most part, you prioritize guys who threw really hard. But Jesse Chavez, there's just something about Jesse Chavez where he doesn't throw incredibly hard, but he's still incredibly effective. And he was arguably having his best year last year before he got hurt. And so you're just kind of, you're thrilled to see him back. And I'm excited for when we do eventually see him in Atlanta.
Yeah, and the reason say eventually, because you and I talking before we got on the pod, I mean, they don't really have a spot for him right now. As far as opening day roster is concerned, they don't have a spot for him. So I guess he's there. There's two. As we do the pod, they still haven't played. Actually, they're probably playing right now. 2 games left as far as spring is concerned, and then after that, I mean, they're Tuesday night. They're jumping on a plane after the game and headed to Philly to go ahead and get a day in of walkthroughs and that kind of thing. So he basically will see everybody for a few hours. And then he'll probably head to Gwinnett while the team heads to Philadelphia.
Yeah, the only thing that I could potentially see happening that would get Jesse Chavez in the opening day bullpen is if they decide, because you have Mentor and Matzik and Bummer, that they can afford to option Dylan Lee to Gwinnett, because he's the only guy in the bullpen that has minor league options. So it's like either they're going to DFA Jackson Stevens or they're going to option Dylan Lee. I don't know at this point. Like, you see this every year, right? You think it's a roster is set, and then a veteran comes available and a team makes a signing and has to shuffle somebody on. I don't expect them to add Chavez. I mean, honestly, his spring numbers weren't great.
Right.
His spring numbers were not fantastic. And
that's why the White Sox dropped him. I mean,
although, how many times have we seen this where somebody else has Jesse Chavez, can't figure out how to use him, they release him, they waive him, whatever, Atlanta just grabs him and he goes right back into a great role with the team. And so, I mean, LA in 2022, he had a 7.59 ERA in his first 11 appearances with them. They waive him, he comes back to Atlanta and puts up like a 2.7.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what it is. When he was with the Cubs in 22, he had like a 6.3 before they traded him to us. I don't really know what it is, but Jesse Chavez works out in Atlanta. Now, he's also talked about this is the last ride, right? He wanted one more chance to make a major league roster, one more season in the bigs, and then he's going to go be a coach. And so it's only fitting that he's in Atlanta for this last ride, at least to start this last ride. And I can see this working a couple different ways, right? I can see he's in Gwinnett, and he's just doing his business in Gwinnett. Something happens, some catastrophe happens in the bullpen. We call him up, and he's the savior down the stretch, right? Yeah. Or he gets in the bullpen pretty early. He looks good. We need to make a trade. We ship him off in a trade. The other team gets rid of him in a month, and he comes back. Like, it's one of two options here for Jesse Chavez. But either way, I don't hate it.
The guy just loves Atlanta. Like,
he does.
And apparently Atlanta loves him because we've seen it the last few years. When somebody drops him, that's literally the first phone call that gets made. And honestly, everybody goes, his agent's on the phone with Atlanta. I'm like, no, I'm not shocked that Atlanta's just not on the phone with them already. Like, that they're making the call. because you're right. He seems to be some sort of fit. I mean, you're talking north of 6 ERA, north of 7 ERA at other organizations, and then he's sub 3 when he comes to Atlanta. It's almost like he just loves the humidity and enjoys the part. And it's odd because I'm one that I don't think Atlanta is a pitcher's park. I mean, I've seen balls just get out of there and right pretty easily, and so for a guy to want to play in Atlanta and want to pitch in Atlanta and be successful doing it, I mean, he's found some sort of magic with the Braves organization.
And I don't think people really kind of realize how good he was last year. So 36 appearances, and I think 29 of those came before he got injured. 1.56 ERA. I mean, if he had not gotten hurt, he was a candidate to make the All-Star team at age 39. Yeah. And that was last year was statistically the second best season of his career or stint with any organization. He had 32 games with the Cubs in 2018 with a 1.15 ERA. And then he had 36 with us with a 1.56. And so I don't know how he's doing it, right? You pull up the StatCast, nothing really stands out as far as velocity, movement, but it just works. And there are just some guys that you cannot understand when you look at the numbers, why this guy is as good as he is. Jesse Chavez is one of those guys, but you kind of touched on it. The clubhouse fit is great. The bullpen loves him. He's a mentor to all the younger guys because literally everybody is a younger guy than him. And he just plays his best in Atlanta because I guess it's the clubhouse, the culture, the guys he's playing with, the way they use him, whatever it might be. But I'm excited he's back. I don't even know if we'll need him this year, but if we do, I have zero doubt that he will step up and do exactly what you need him to do on a major league roster to take care of this team in whatever way you need him.
The most impressive thing that I've seen him do all spring long is it made its way around Twitter. And folks, if you're watching this, please do yourself a favor and just go search Jesse Chavez on Twitter. And one of the reporters said, is there any way that you're able to name each organization that you played for in order?
And he does it.
And he got them all.
So impressive, man.
Yeah, that was the most impressive thing. Don't get me wrong. A sub-2 ERA last year was pretty impressive, but being able to name every team he's been, even just the ones he was with for probably less than a month. Yeah. And he wrapped it, and he'll be able to add to that now. He'll be able to add the Braves again to that particular rundown.
Yeah, on Baseball Reference, when you pull a guy up, there's on the right-hand side of his page, there's that round circle with his uniform number and the team colors or whatever, and it's designed to show every team he's played for. Jesse Chavez has 3 rows of numbers. Like it's like 13 different little icons that you can hover over to see the different teams he's played for, and and that's like with all of the Braves late career stints being one thing there. It's just, it's impressive. It really is.
So Jesse Chavez, he is back. We're looking forward to it. Speaking of back, plainscoffee.com is back as well. Promo code Braves, 10% off. They have tea. Somebody asked me that again the other day. They were like, I don't drink coffee. I said, they have tea. You can go and get tea on there. It's right there at the top. You can see all of it. Straight to your doorstep. Don't roast the beans until you make that order, and then it comes straight to your home. You can get the flavored stuff if you want. You can get regular coffee. I mentioned tea plus the blends. And so, seriously, no kidding. They kept reminding me how much they don't drink coffee. I'm like, great, they have tea. Braves is the promo code that you need to put in. Get your 10% off at plainscoffee.com. Another great story, because it has happened in probably the last week and a half, because he's been barreling balls. He just hasn't really found a hole. Well, now he's hitting them where they ain't. And that is Sean Murphy, who is heading into the season with a lot of momentum from the plate. And he's also thrown a few guys out in the spring as well. So we knew he had the arm. You know, the bat cooled off last year in the second half of the season. So we were kind of wondering what we were going to get. Well, Lindsay, this could be a very good sign for the Braves lineup.
Yeah, he has 3 home runs. He hit 2 on Sunday. All 3 home runs have been in the last week. And the second year of Sean Murphy in Atlanta was always kind of the one that I was watching for, having to make all the adjustments you had to make. Right. He talked at Braves Fest about how the heat did in fact get to him. It's so hot, so humid in Atlanta. He spent his whole career in Oakland, so it makes sense.
Yep.
There's a difference in going on a road trip and playing in Atlanta for 3 games and then going to Miami or somewhere else and being in Atlanta every single day.
Right.
You combine that with the mild hamstring injury he had last year, getting hit in the head with the bat, a couple different things kind of explain why his numbers in the back half were so poor compared to what he was in the first half. But that second year, when you've all of the off the field stuff is handled, you've found your house, you've settled, your family's comfortable, all of that stuff. I'm expecting big things from Sean Murphy this year. I want to remind folks, Matt Olson's first year in Atlanta to second year in Atlanta.
Yep.
His first year, he bats .240 with 34 home runs and 44 doubles. His second year, he bats .283 with 54 home runs and 3 triples. Like, it's we don't talk about that, I think, enough in baseball, is the off the field adjustment, because you're in a new city, new teammates, new clubhouse, new routines, new people, dealing with all of that. And so Murphy, having had a chance to get past that initial first year, I'm not going to call them jitters, but that first year adjustment period.
Yep.
I feel like 2024 is going to be a massive year for Sean Murphy when he establishes himself. I'm going to go on a limb and say one of the 2 best catchers in baseball from an offensive and defensive perspective in 2024. And I think he'll probably, it feels like it's more likely or not that he'll end up starting 110 games simply because he's going to be so hot. It's going to be almost impossible to take him out.
One of the most telling things was he had 3 home runs this last week, 2 of which came on Sunday. The one earlier in the week, I just happened to be watching, and they were interviewing Austin Riley at the time that he hit the bomb and into left. And it was telling when he's rounding the bases, Riley going, finally, he goes, all he's been doing is barreling up balls in batting practice and inter squad games, and nothing has been falling for him as far as the games are concerned. He said that is, and Austin Riley went on to say that's well deserved. He's really put in a lot of effort this offseason at his plate appearances and what he plans on doing at the plate. So when your teammates see that and they see the work that you've put in, and then they also see what you deserve as far as results are concerned. And then, of course, then he goes on Sunday and hits 2, one of which barely got over the other one. They said, I was listening to it via radio while I was doing yard work. They said it went out of the facility. So yeah, he must have absolutely clobbered the second one.
Watching the clip, I think some of the estimates were like, yeah, that ball came down in Bradenton or in the Atlantic Ocean. Wow. He blasted that other home run. And yeah, it's something you can't see that in a stat line. Just the fact that a dude will make consistent hard contact, but it's right where the defender is, or it's expected batting average of .850, but the outfielder happens to run it down, stuff like that. Tell you what, you hit him over the fence, they can't catch him. And so, again, I have a good feeling about Sean Murphy in 2024. I picked him up in fantasy baseball. I had a single season in a redraft league. He's my starting catcher because I was like, he's in a really good lineup. He's close enough to the top to still have guys to drive in, but he's, again, just like it works in Atlanta, he's not being asked to carry the offense. Feel really good about what you're going to see from Sean Murphy this year.
Before I let you go, any concern over the last couple of starts with Strider and Fried, both of them giving up a couple of runs on their last starts as we head into the season? And, of course, they'll be the first 2 that we see in Philadelphia.
Statistically, Strider had to give up a run eventually, right?
Yeah.
And from what I understand, he actually they did not need him to come back out for the 4th. He wanted to come back out because he's a competitor, and he wanted to keep going. So he came out in the 4th and gave up a run or 2. I'm absolutely not worried about it. We've seen, again, it's more process than stats. And like Riley talked about with Murphy, the process has been really good for both of these guys in spring. I am not worried at all about either one. Very excited. And then I'm really excited to see also you get Sale and Morton as your 3 and 4. You feel good about that, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Sale worries me a little bit, but again, they tinker with so much stuff. Listening to post game on Sunday where they interviewed Fried, and actually it turned out to be like it was a good 7-8 minute interview. Mark Bowman is the one that did it, and he shared the audio with the fan and let them have it. So with Fried, at first I was worried because in that game Atlanta was up 5-0, and then Fried gave up a couple, and then the bullpen gave up the rest, and it ended in a 5-5 tie, which they do in spring, which I still hate, but I understand it because it's spring training. I just don't like ties. I mean, if anytime there's a chance to put a runner on second and do the ghost man, that's spring, for goodness sakes, but whatever. But to hear his comments afterwards, and he told Bowman, he said, well, I was tinkering with some things out there. So it sounds like he got lit up on the tinkering instead of doing what he was supposed, like his he said, I was trying to make some adjustments. He said, and then when we got some runners on, I wanted to go with a different mentality. So I went with some different pitch sequences that I probably wouldn't normally go with. So it sounds like the peddling that he did while he was out on the mound ended up is what cost him his runs, not necessarily his performance in general.
Yeah, see, so that's back to one of those process things, right? You would rather, if this was the regular season, that probably wouldn't have happened. But the benefit of this, like the cost is virtually nothing, right? Like these stats don't matter. His spot's locked in. But the benefits of this is if he gets into the season and he has a start where for some reason he can't land that curveball, which is a go-to swing and miss strike three, put away pitch for him or something. He's worked on some of these other things and he knows, hey, I can pull that two-seamer out and try to get that ground ball to first base from this righty and start a double play or whatever. And so, again, like, not super worried about it. You know the process. You know that he was going with the B or the C plan versus the A plan. To me, he looks good when he needs to perform. I feel comfortable he's going to be there. And then, obviously, it's a contract year. And as much as guys say they are focused on the game they're in and the here and now, I feel like there's going to be that little bit extra because it's a contract year. So I have zero concerns about Strider or Fried.
All going into the season, I tell you what you do need to be concerned about, and that is getting your Plains coffee because you need that shipped right to your door. Drake Baldwin, sorry we did not get to you today. However, you can go to plainscoffee.com if you're a coffee drinker, Drake, and enter the promo code Braves. Get your 10% off. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. That is Braves Today. Lindsay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy.